Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
That's right. Welcome to the show, y'all. If I pinch the B and I pinch the S and I squeeze, the Broncos win. Ah, yes. Happy Monday. This is a victory Monday for the Denver Broncos, who have improved to 5-3 after beating the snot out of the Carolina Panthers yesterday at Empower Field. I was there. Our very own Jay was there attending his first ever Broncos game. And maybe he'll post a video about it, but he was impressed with the size of the stadium, the passion of the fans, and the detail and technicality of the game of football itself, which is difficult to understand if you didn't grow up watching it. But we all did, not all of us, but some of us, and those of us who have, and even the newest fans are happy about what they see from these Denver Broncos. 5-3, beating the Panthers 28-14 yesterday at home. It's kind of an interesting game, and we're going to get into this today, and we're going to get into some other stuff as well. An action-packed Sunday of football, some insane games and insane finishes. Also, the Buffs won. The Nuggets not doing so great, but the Avs are on a 5-game winning streak. Good stuff going on in Colorado sports, but we're going to focus on the Broncos today because they just played yesterday, and it is a victory Monday. Now, the Broncos were favored by 11 points going into this game. And watching the game, you realize there were a lot more points up on the board there, which might have explained this demeanor from Sean Payton after the game. Here he is taking the podium and just kind of his opening statement, his opening remarks to the media before he took any questions. Is this a man who just won an NFL game? You tell me.
Pleased we got the win. There's a handful of things when you look at the tape, I'm sure we'll see tomorrow, that we're going to have to clean up and correct. And there'll be some things that we really liked, that we did well. We can't keep turning the ball over. That's frustrating. And I didn't like how it finished, but it's good to get a win. Questions?
Wow, Sean, was it good? Because you didn't seem too happy there. Sean Payton is the master of the pregnant pause. I mean, his pauses are like 9 months pregnant. His pauses are so pregnant. They're about to induce labor on Sean Payton's pregnant pauses. You just wonder what's going through his mind. Clearly, not a man who was happy with that victory. There's some layers to this that I want to get into. But before I do, I just want to talk about the Broncos' performance, some things that we can get happy about. All right, the Broncos scored on 3 straight offensive possessions in the first half, which is something they haven't done in a long time. Touchdowns on 3 straight offensive possessions. The Carolina Panthers forced the fumble of L.J. Humphrey on that first drive and turned around and had a 10-play drive and scored a touchdown, which was crazy, right? How are these Panthers moving the ball on this defense? Well, the defense would prevent them from scoring in 9 consecutive drives. And the Broncos offense, after punting, having to punt in the first drive, and they were in field goal territory. They were on the 28-yard line. Bo Nix took a 13-yard sack, put them out of field goal range, and they punted the ball. Okay, but once the defense held, they got the ball back. They scored touchdowns on 3 straight drives. Now, Bo Nix, this guy right here, you can see him leaping over the pile, okay, and extending the ball for a touchdown there, which he had 1 on the ground and 3 through the air. That particular touchdown there, he almost scored on a run prior to that. A lot of folks thought he was in. I was right down there, pretty close to that play, and I thought he was in. Bo lowered the shoulder, stuck his head in there for his team, for his city, for his coaches. Almost scored a touchdown on that one. And 2 plays later, they called this sneak. He jumped over, held the ball over the end zone there, and scored his first rushing touchdown of the afternoon. But he threw, more importantly, in my opinion, 3 through the air. Okay, Bo Nix has been criticized over the last couple of weeks for not being able to stand in the pocket and deal the ball. Now, he wouldn't have been drafted if he didn't have that ability, right? So to me, it was not that Bo Nix can't throw the ball from in the pocket. It's not that he can't throw those balls downfield. It's that he wasn't comfortable enough in these moments, in these plays to do that yet. Well, we saw that change in front of our eyes yesterday on Sunday as Bo Nix threw 3 touchdowns. He threw for 280-something yards. He was 28 of 37, 0 interceptions again, and 100 yards receiving went to this guy, Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton came up big yesterday. He had 8 catches for 100 yards, a long of 37 yards. He also threw one. He threw a pass, went for 28 yards to our boy, Michael Burton. Michael Burton caught that one. And, Sean Payton pulled out the trickeration. He pulled out the trickery because he knew that this team was that bad and he could mess around with it. Courtland Sutton, like I said, 100-yard receiving day. Adam Troutman on National Tight End Day. Yes, it was National Tight Ends Day yesterday. I don't know who makes that day, and I don't know why it's not every Sunday because these guys showed up yesterday. I was talking about how the tight ends needed to get more involved in this offense. Someone was listening to this show and listening to me because the tight ends did get more involved, specifically that guy catching 4 passes for 85 yards. 4 targets, 4 catches. He caught a touchdown. He had a long of 37 yards as well. And so big day for Adam Troutman. A really nice one-handed seam route touchdown that popped off his hand and he caught it. It was a perfect throw by Bo. Threw it in the only place he could. And that guy, Adam Troutman, caught that ball. But also scoring a touchdown was another tight end, fellow by the name of Nate Atkins. There he is celebrating with L.J. Humphrey. Spiked that thing. Bounced pretty good, pretty high up in the air. That's how you know this guy, we like the cut of his jib. His spike was good, okay? And then I saw Bo Nix go run and pick up that ball for Nate Atkins and run off and give it to the equipment manager. That's a good guy right there. That's a good friend to have on your side. The quarterback, right? Bo Nix, the celebrity in town, is thinking about guys like Nate Atkins and these moments that they get to have and wanting to make sure Nate doesn't forget that ball because that's his first touchdown, if I'm correct, as a pro. And he wants him to save that ball. When I scored my first touchdown in the NFL, I saved that ball too. Now, it's not in a case or anything. It's just laying around the house. And, we play catch with it every once in a while. But it's nice to have that. Nice to see Nate Atkins get in the end zone there. Short play, one pass, 3 yards, and a touchdown. My first touchdown was 1 yard. Sometimes when you're a tight end, you're not the main guy, you're a backup tight end, you're in different situations. You get in on goal line plays, and those goal line plays will have 2 or 3 tight ends in it. And no matter how the play unfolds, your quarterback's going to look at the open guy. Nate Atkins was the open guy there, and he secured the catch in the first half there when the Broncos were on their little scoring spree there. 400 yards of total offense by this Broncos team that's been averaging only about 250. So, again, this was not a very good team, and Sean Payton talked about that the fact that this is not a good team, the Panthers, and we're not going to be able to make these mistakes against better teams like the Baltimore Ravens, who just lost to the Browns, and the Broncos are going to have to deal with them this coming week. So you got to believe the Baltimore Ravens are going to be upset. They're going to be mad. They lost to Jameis Winston and the Cleveland Browns, and they're going to have something for the Broncos. But the Broncos putting up 400 yards of total offense, almost 300 passing, 3 touchdowns by Bo, 0 interceptions, 0 turnovers by Bo, 1 rushing touchdown really helps. And, Sean Payton was upset that they did not land the knockout blow. Sean Payton wants to put up 1 million points, okay? And he did that for a long time. In his 15 years as an NFL head coach, let's throw Sean Payton up there. Let's see Sean. Let's see Sean. There he is. Look, he's got the big laminated sheet. He's got his hand on his pager there. Beep, 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 beep. He's got a pager, which is weird that he keeps a pager. Pagers are so 1997. I had a pager in high school. We all did. And you kids out here watching this on the internet might not know what a pager is. But a pager was before cell phones came around. And a pager would just tell you where your friend was. You get paged from a certain phone number and you have to call that number. And then there would be a code, your friend's code. Mine was 15. So if I paged my friend, I would give him the number I was at and then dash 15 so he knew it was me. Okay, kids? That's how we used to do it back in the Stone Age. Okay, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. But Sean Payton has a pager in case he gets a call from his dentist or something. I don't know. But that page right there, that big old page in front of him of laminated sheets at like 8-point font, there are so many freaking plays on that play sheet. And it also is broken up into situations, okay? Coaches are big on situational football. What I mean by that is 1st and 10. That's a situation on offense. So he has a section on that play sheet of plays to call on 1st and 10. Now, all those plays don't all work against the same defense. So you have to have different plays in there that will work against different defenses that you think they might give you. Now, this guy's a master at creating game plans to exploit his opponent. That's what the best coaches do. They dive down into the film. They come up with little wrinkles. They see weaknesses of their opponent, and they attack them. They attack them. Sean Payton wanted to attack the Panthers, okay? And he didn't put up as many points as he wanted. Cory Sutton fumbled it on the 1-yard line. LJ Humphrey had that fumble on the first drive. And that chaps his hide. He's not happy about that. Now, I'll tell you, when you're playing for a coach who gets pissed off about stuff like that, it has a couple of effects, all right? One is it's kind of a bummer because you want to enjoy the victory, right? You want to feel like you did something good because you did. You beat another NFL team. These are the best football players on the planet. I don't care that the Panthers are as bad as they are. They're still pro football players. You got to respect them. So when you get a win and you cover the spread like that, sorry, burping up my Santiago's burrito delivered by our very own Blake. Delicious Santiago's. I also have my extra large coffee here. They didn't have a smaller cup, unfortunately. I had to go with the venti, as it were. My hands are just very big. You know what they say about big hands, right? Big gloves. Hard to find sometimes. But Sean Payton is a coach when he expects that standard of excellence, when he expects perfection, sometimes anything less can draw his ire. And it certainly did yesterday. He was not a happy man. He was not a happy man. The rest of his press conference was of a similar tone. The guy's harping on mistakes. And when anybody asked him about something good, he kind of said, yeah, but look, relative to the mistakes, this guy is obsessed with getting it perfect. Now, it sucks, but it's going to make you good. These guys are going to be good. They already sort of are 5-3, and they're only getting better. Now, what I see from this offense in particular, because this defense has been playing lights out all year, but this offense has, let's face it, not been great. Bo Nix and the passing offense has been towards the very bottom of the league in the first 7 weeks of the season. That did change yesterday with the Broncos putting up all those yards. But they're buoyed by this defense, and they feel emboldened by this defense. If you got a comment, throw it up there and tell us how you feel about the game. Dominic just saying what up. What up, Dominic? Did you watch the game? What were your thoughts? Should the Broncos feel good about this victory? Should the Broncos feel happy that they beat the Carolina Panthers in the way they did? Or should they feel like they left something out there? How would you feel if you're a member of the Broncos today? Waking up in the morning after a victory, should you apologize for this victory? Or if you have a comment on my extra large coffee or whatever you want to comment on, we can chat. Because this is Guerilla Sports Daily. We can talk about whatever the fuck we want, and we don't have to censor ourselves. You know, we're not slaves to corporate overlords here. We talk and say exactly what we want. But I do want to talk about the Denver Bronco defense for a minute, because the Denver Bronco defense has been carrying this team. All right, led by Vance Joseph. This team comes to play every single week, and yesterday was no different. Yes, they gave up a touchdown drive on that first one because the Panthers got it at midfield, okay? But after that, they stiffened up and prevented the Panthers from scoring in 9 straight drives, gave one up at the end there. Sean Payton didn't like that one. We're going to have to talk about that relative to the play. But look, this team forced A very inexperienced quarterback to play some pretty average ball. They did throw for 215 yards, but they only rushed for 69 yards. They had 284 total yards. Nick Bonito. I want to talk about him first. Look at that guy. Undershirt hanging out. That's the thing I look at now. I'm the uniform inspector, and I got to be like, man, tuck your shirt in, man. See, that's against the rules, but he doesn't care. You know why? Because he's had 6 sacks in 6 games. He's had a sack in 6 straight games. That hasn't been done since Von Miller in 2018. And he's holding up the 6. He knows exactly. Well, no, he's not doing that. He's doing that. Not that, but that. He knows where he's at. This guy's playing at a high level. His moves off the line of scrimmage are Von Miller-esque. He's rounding into form as an elite pass rusher in this league, despite being relatively undersized. This guy is not a huge dude. He's not, some kind of Reggie White, J.J. Watt dude coming around the corner. But he is he is part of this wave of pass rushers that the Broncos have that are putting enormous pressure on the quarterbacks and making life very difficult for them. So props to Nick Bonito for continuing his streak. Let's see if he can make it 7 next week against Lamar Jackson. That's going to be a struggle. Lamar Jackson, a little more elusive than what's his face yesterday than Bryce Young. But Jonathan Cooper also got himself a sack. Jonathan Cooper, you see him there with a very impressive beard. He's a big, strong dude, and he's coming off the edge angry all the time. And so Jonathan Cooper had a sack there. So did Nick Bonito. They sacked Bryce Young twice. Bryce Young ended up throwing 2 touchdowns, though, which I know they don't like. He did throw 2 interceptions. And the back end of the defense holding up their end of the bargain as well. Patrick Surtain, the second, had an interception, giving him 3 for the season. There he is, Pat Surtain, also with a very long undershirt hanging out. Oh, man, I feel like such a loser. Yeah, I'm the uniform police for the NFL, so I actually have to, write that stuff down. And I'm like, do I really have to write down Pat Surtain? Like, he's the best player in the league, and I'm writing down a violation from a fucking undershirt? Whatever. But you're not supposed to have it go down below, these logos on your pants. And clearly that one's pretty far down there, Pat, but you don't give a shit. I will say, Pat Surtain just playing at a high level, and you're happy to see him out there, especially after, kind of a scary concussion, had to sit out last week's Thursday night game. Word is, though, that he was upset by that. He wanted to be out there playing. He was pissed off that he couldn't. And so you always want to sit these guys out an extra week, especially a player like Pat Surtain, who is so important to your organization. You cannot mess around with his brain. Keep that thing safe. Keep it healthy. Let him heal, which they did. Pat Surtain got a pick yesterday. And so did Jaquan McMillian. Yeah, number 29. Your nickel corner, a guy who really is playing some good football. I mean, he's a very confident player. He's always jawing with the opposing team. That's part of his process. Some guys like to talk shit. Some guys don't. The guys who like to talk shit, that's what gets them going. It kind of gets them, puts their skin in the game in a way. And then they can get guys to play outside of themselves and to get caught up in the shit talking. But he's just a feisty dude. I love watching him play. He's got very, very refined skills, and he made a hell of a catch there on that interception on that front pylon in the north end zone there. So just a really good ball skill type of play from a cornerback. I make the joke that, corners are receivers who can't catch, but not with this group. That guy's got some hands. PS2 has some hands, and Riley Moss has some hands. And so, yeah, as our boy Paul Shatter says, McMillian's pick was amazing. It was. He opened his hips. Like, for a corner who's running like this, to turn like this, locate it and open the hips, to go up like that, it's not easy. Opening the hips. A lot of guys don't know how to open their hips, man. You can be running so fast. You can be the fastest dude in the world. But if you can't throttle down, open your hips, and go get it, your catch radius sucks. That's why speed is sometimes overrated on a football field. Yeah, you got to be fast. But you got to be able to open your hips and stop and move. And that dude is able to do that. Riley Moss, he struggled a little bit yesterday, but he's a guy we've seen open his hips and make a hell of a catch like that, going up and getting it. And, of course, PS2. Those 3 corners are looking pretty good. They're all young. young players. And so if those guys continue to improve, especially Riley Moss, who relatively inexperienced and is going to get a lot of action because Pat Surtain is just avoided by a lot of offenses. Riley Moss is going to continue to improve, and that guy, Jaquan McMillian, a nice pick. Also, Brandon Jones. Just want to throw a shout out to Brandon Jones, number 22, offseason acquisition to replace Justin Simmons, who was hard to replace. Hard to replace a legend like Justin Simmons, but Brandon Jones is playing really good football, and I'm sorry, I can't help notice his knees are showing, and they don't like that skin. The NFL doesn't like that, man. So I gotta send that in. Man, you guys, man, just pull your socks up. No, this guy led the team in tackles yesterday. He had 12 tackles. He's playing at a very high level, throwing his body on the line, made some big plays throughout the year so far. So this defense is playing pretty awesome. Zach Allen continues to put pressure on the quarterback. Zach Allen, I think, is in the top 5 of the league in pressures on the quarterback so far. And you remember, he replaced Draymond Jones, and there was some trepidation as to whether or not that was a smart move. Well, yes, good one on you, George Payton. Again, good for you, George Payton. You got that one right, too. Okay, so, I think that was an impressive win by the Broncos against a team that was on the ropes, hearing all week long about how much they sucked. These are pros. They have a lot of pride. You tell people how bad they are, they're going to take that personally. And you could see that they were upset after the game. I mean, they were getting into it. John doing a little – one of the safeties was yelling at Bo Nix. He's right in his face talking shit. And Bo's like, what's going on, man? What's going on? Why are you so upset? And this guy was mad. I think some of the Panthers players believed that Sean Payton was trying to run up the score because some of the trickeration that was happening in the game. But it was 28-4, 28-7. It's not running up the score. Put up your points. Okay? Put up or shut up. I think the Broncos really wanted to score a lot of points there. Jay, if you see any of these comments, you want to throw them up there, just throw them up because yep. D-Rock says it just isn't fair. The guys are playing football while McMillian is playing Broadway ballet. Dude out here doing pirouettes, just making it look easy. Yeah, it really is. Football is kind of like a violent ballet sometimes. It's not just guys running into each other at full speed. There's some amazing feats of athleticism and footwork out there. I mean, the footwork drills that these guys do on a daily basis, these guys are ballerinas. Well put. Not ballerinas. Is a male ballerina? Is it ballerino? Ballerinos. That fucker's a ballerino, if I've ever seen one. Dominic says the only thing the Broncos messed up yesterday was their run game. Could have been better. Yeah, I agree with that, Dominic. Running game could have been better. It was almost like they didn't really commit to it. Javonte didn't really look very explosive at all. He had 17 carries for 44 yards in a long of 9. He didn't look like he had that burst. Javonte Williams did not look like he had that burst. Jaleel did, though. Jaleel had 8 carries for 47 yards, so he came in and actually had that burst. But you wonder, as the season wears on, it's not like Javonte's going to get fresher. I think that could be a concern if the Broncos end up making a playoff run. Who's going to be the guy getting the lion's share of the carries? It's going to be important to figure out who that is. Audrey Guestimate had a carry for 4 yards, but I don't think he's quite ready for that. So, it could be a two-headed monster of Jaleel and Javonte going forward, and I feel okay about that. But we got to figure out how to get Javonte to physically be at his best. He wasn't physically at his best yesterday. He didn't burst through the hole. He didn't break any tackles. So it was a Javonte that kind of looks like he's slowing down a little bit, which you don't like because we're only halfway through the season, and we still got, 3 or 4 more games till the bye week. So I agree with you there, Dominic. The running game didn't look great, but room for improvement. And the passing game was just so good. I think you just feel good about that. Robert says, I think Vele and Humphrey are the most consistent wide receivers. Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims need to show more. They're underperforming. I love Vele and I love Humphrey. And I know Humphrey, had a couple moments that weren't great yesterday. One of those was the fumble, of course. He was fighting for extra yards. This guy used to play running back, LJ. So he knows how to run with the football in his hands. The problem is that you stay up and you got guys holding up your leg. The other guys are coming in to punch that ball out. And if you saw on that play, number 95, a big boy came in, was able to, because LJ was just kind of standing up, like trying to jostle for more yards. Well, he made himself very vulnerable. 95 came in and squared up and just threw a hook. And connected right with the football, ball's on the ground. You hate to see that. But to me, the fact that LJ's in the game so much, he has such a big role on this team, means that they really, really like him. I mean, Sean Payton had him in New Orleans, cared enough about what he brought to a team that he brought him here and has given him a lot of opportunities. And I think that he's deserved those. There was one ball that kind of went through his hands yesterday, but it was a deep ball, right? And he's going down looking at it this way. Actually, he's trying to pass these guys. And right as he does, he looks up, tracks it. It's over here. And last minute, he threw his hands up, hit him in the hands. I don't really see that as a drop, a traditional drop. But I will say that Troy Franklin's was a drop. And you talked about Troy and Marvin Mims there. And Troy Franklin has looked good to me, except on the deep balls. And that's why you brought him here. You know, he is the guy who's going to take the top off of the defense. He's faster than everybody out there. So those are the balls you got to get. You know, a couple weeks ago, I think it was the Raiders, that deep one where Bo got into it with Sean Payton. Well, that was a drop by Troy Franklin. And if Troy had caught that, you know, Sean probably would have shut the fuck up. But it was an incompletion. And so, you know, you end up getting yelled at. And then yesterday, another ball, another nice deep ball just went right through his hands. He's not tracking it. He's not looking it all the way in. Your eyes. You really catch the ball with your eyes. I tell my son that, who's 4. Catch it with your eyes, because I throw him a ball and he's just looking at me. He's like, hey. And he doesn't even – you got to look at the ball. You got to look at the ball and look it all the way in. And those big balls that are coming – at you, you really got to track those. Those are difficult. But we hope that Troy Franklin improves there. He is a rookie, though, and you know that Bo likes him. I mean, he had 1,300-something yards last year at Oregon. You know, 13 or 14 touchdowns, 70-something catches. So very productive player with Bo Nix, and you got to think that they like him and want to keep getting him involved. Marvin Mims is an interesting one, though, man, because Marvin, there seems to be something missing, you know, with Marvin offensively, whether it's a lack of confidence, whether it's just not being in rhythm, whether it's just not knowing where he's supposed to be, or something about Marvin on offense is just not quite clicking. And I know that Sean Payton's trying to find ways to get him involved because he's very physically talented. He's fast. He's strong for a small guy. He's shifty. How do you get Marvin Mims going? Practice and reps, and you know, you hope that this young nucleus is going to grow together and continue to improve. But before we move on to some other NFL action here, just want to kind of give props to the Broncos for getting it done when they're supposed to get it done. They beat the team they're supposed to beat. And they covered the spread, and they dominated this team, and they did some stuff that they hadn't been doing before. You know, I actually liked how the Broncos played with pace. They went on the ball. They did like a hurry-up offense because, look, Sean Payton wanted to knock these dudes out. He wanted to humiliate them. He really wanted to put up 45 points, and he wasn't. And that's why he was pissed off. But they were that much better than this team. I think everyone who was there could see that. The Panthers were just kind of had no fight in them. They just kind of slouched shoulders and just woe is me. And that's what happens when you lose, man. In the NFL, there is nothing more miserable than losing over and over again. I was lucky enough to be on some pretty good teams. The worst record I was ever on was 7-9, and that was a nightmare. I mean, imagine these guys who are now 1-6. They've lost all these games. I mean, it really does feel like someone died when you go into the facility because everyone knows their jobs are probably gone soon. So it's a hard thing to be losing in the NFL. And I feel for those guys. I feel for almost everyone except the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers. The New York Jets dropped a game to the lowly New England Patriots yesterday. And the Jets are now 2-6. 2-6, I think. Wow, those Jets, man. Jets. Jets. The Jets lost. Yep, they're 2-6, and they lost to the 2-6. And they were 1-6. Now they're 2-6. The Patriots. Aaron Rodgers went 17-28, 233 through 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Drake May started the game, got hurt really early. Jacoby Brissett came on and beat these guys. And so, the Jets falling apart. Aaron Rodgers, anything he's doing is not working. And it's just kind of crazy, man, to watch how things have unfolded there with the Jets. And maybe we can thank our lucky stars that we didn't end up with that gentleman right there running our team and operating as de facto GM, which is what would have happened if he would have come here and all the baggage that's included in having Aaron Rodgers be your quarterback, because he's not just your quarterback. What he is someone who needs to be acknowledged as a team building mind. He needs to be consulted. And you got to think that he's got Woody Johnson's ear, and Woody Johnson fired Robert Saleh. If Aaron Rodgers would have told him, don't fire Coach Saleh, he wouldn't have. Okay, obviously he got Aaron's blessing. Nathaniel Hackett's there because Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and it just ain't working. So the Jets are 2-6. The Patriots also 2-6. But I do want to mention one of the more exciting finishes you're ever going to see in football, in the NFL, and it's really why we love the sport, isn't it? The Washington Commanders were down against the Bears late in the game. Jayden Daniels, who was questionable to play all week long with a rib injury, and he ended up playing, and he played pretty well, but really saved his magic for the last play of the game, where he took the shotgun snap and drifted to the right, drifted back to the left, fired off a Hail Mary, and it was caught in the end zone for a touchdown. A lot is being made about this play. How could this happen? How could this happen? Well, shit happens, number one. Shit happens on a play like that takes that long to develop. That's why you hope you can put some pressure on the quarterback. You don't want to just let him stand back there for 12 seconds, which is how long he had before he threw that thing. But Jayden Daniels was able to launch a deep ball, a Hail Mary that that the Commanders side executed perfectly executed, and the Bears executed not so perfectly. There are techniques to how to do a Hail Mary, how to do one and how to defend one. When you're doing one on offense, the way we would do it is one guy would be the tip man, okay? And then one guy would be in front of him and one guy would be behind him. So I'm going to go up and tip it. If I tip it behind me, there's a guy back there who's going to get it, like there was in that game. Or if I have to tip it in front of me, there's a guy in front of me who will get it as well. But the Bears know that. Defenses know that. And so there's supposed to be guys on all these guys who are surrounding the tip man, but they all converged on the tip. And the fellow who caught it was alone in the back of the end zone. And, mayhem erupted for the Washington Commanders. What a turnaround of an organization. It just goes to show you that karma and bad energy actually does affect things. Dan Snyder, the much maligned owner of the Commanders, finally ousted. They bring in a new guy, and their fate has just completely turned around. The Commanders, led by that fella right there, Jayden Daniels, going to be competing with Bo Nix. If Bo Nix keeps playing the way he is right now, those two are going to be competing for Rookie of the Year honors. It's still October, guys. You got to remember that. Still October. And so there's a lot of football to go. And some of these teams that started off really hot, well, they're going to fade. And some of these players who started off really hot, they're going to fade or they're going to get hurt. And so you just want to stay healthy as long as you possibly can. And that's why, for me, I don't want Bo Nix running too much. And that's why I liked yesterday what he did. He didn't really have to run much. He stood in the pocket and he dealt the football. A couple other scores to go through. The Detroit Lions hung 52 points on the Tennessee Titans. 52 points. And they threw for under 100 yards through the air. I mean, that's just a crazy stat. 85 yards passing, 52 points. The stats don't matter. The score is what matters. The Detroit Lions are rolling. Couple other games of note. AFC West divisional opponents. Chargers beat the Saints 26-8. We all know the Saints are in a tough spot right now. They're just not very good. And the Chargers at home managed with a pretty underwhelming performance to handle them 26-8. So let's see, where are I guess the Chargers are, let's see. Yeah, so the Broncos are ahead of the Chargers. The Chargers have had their bye week already. They're 4-3, but the Broncos are 5-3. And so they're ahead of the Chargers, and the lowly Raiders lost yesterday to the Chiefs. So the Chiefs improved to 7-0. There's Travis Kelce slamming the ball on National Tight Ends Day. Yes, he did have a good day. His best day of the young season. Travis Kelce, who's been surprisingly absent thus far. Maybe he and Taylor Swift are going through a little rough patch, huh? Oh, well, they must have made up, because Travis Kelce had a good game yesterday. 10 catches. on National Tight Ends Day for 90 yards on 12 targets. So Patrick Mahomes clearly wanted to get him involved on National Tight Ends Day. Didn't want him to feel left out and have guys like George Kittle get all the accolades while poor Travis went unnoticed. But Travis Kelce's the type of player, man, he doesn't really need to have a good regular season. All they got to do is make the playoffs, and he's going to show up. You know that. So the Chiefs improved to 7-0, the last remaining undefeated team, and the Broncos are going to see him in 2 weeks. And so we're going to get into this Baltimore Ravens team as the week goes on, but the Ravens lost to the Browns, and so they're going to be ready for the Broncos. The Broncos are going to be on a 2-game road trip here, starting with the Ravens and ending in Kansas City at Geha Stadium. Yeah, they've renamed it Geha, which is super lame. And so we can make fun of them about that, but not much else. A few things before we get out of here, guys. The Buffs continue to roll. Bowl eligible now after beating the Cincinnati Bearcats this weekend in pretty decisive fashion. They're just playing good football, and you got to feel pretty good about that. The Coach Prime has these guys playing sound football. A lot of the criticism that he faced over the last, couple of years starting to fade away because the things people criticized him for are improving. He's getting better in all phases. This team is performing at a high level, and you love to see it. It's starting to be consistent. The hard work is paying off, as Coach Prime said. So the CU Buffs bowl eligible with a lot of games to play here. And like he said, that's not what they're, that's great. That's a nice stepping stone, but they're aiming for bigger things, and they're playing like they deserve that. So CU Buffs get a win. The Nuggets are off to an 0-2 start. Not great, but 80 more games, guys. 80 more games. Clearly, there are some issues, though, with the making of buckets and shots. You're supposed to make, when you go like this, it's supposed to go in the hoop, not like you're supposed to make it go in and not like bounce out or like. So that's something they got to work on, just kind of putting the ball in the hoop. And I don't know if that's something they talk about, but I would think they'll probably will start talking about that, like making shots, The Avs on a 5-game heater right now. They lost their first 4 to start off the season, and now after making a change in goal, used to standing in, playing like a man who believes. And now the Avalanche are playing better around him. So 5-4 with the Avs there. And, that could be a good lesson for the Nuggets. You can start off slow, find your rhythm. These are two teams with incredibly high standards who believe that they should be in the championship, in the finals, and win it all. And so when you have high standards for yourself, a couple games in a row when you lose them, that ain't fun. And so for the Broncos, they want to get to where the Avs and the Nuggets are as far as the standard, because these two teams, the Avs and the Nuggets, have recently won a championship. It's been a while for the Broncos, almost 10 years, and they haven't even made the playoffs. That's right. The Broncos have not made the playoffs since they won that Super Bowl. But the 5-3 Broncos right now are on a trajectory to do just that. One game at a time, one day at a time. I'm going to drink my extra large coffee, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day. This has been Guerrilla Sports Daily. I'm Nate Jackson. Guerrilla Sports! See you guys next time. Go Broncos.